What's up guys, it's Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm really excited about this overview video that I have for a very special client. Tristan Kam from crystalfocus.net has reached out to me and asked me to install a Crossguard lightsaber for him to add a Kylo Ren lightsaber to his collection. So I was very honored to be asked to do this, so I put a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of thought into this lightsaber so that it would be a very unique and a special lightsaber that he would cherish for years to come, hopefully. So if you don't know Tristan, go over to his website. I will put the link in the description down below. He has lots of video tutorials about different ways for customizing Crystal Focus X and, you know, getting the most out of that soundboard, which just happens to be my favorite soundboard for lightsabers, replica lightsabers. So Tristan, this is your full overview video. Please sit down and get comfortable. We're gonna go over everything there is to know about your lightsaber. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. So when you get your box, it will be obviously in the box that I ship it in. Most of your components will be here. The only thing that will be in a separate package is your side blades, okay? So these will be wrapped up in bubble wrap and they'll be in a separate package within the box. It's just that they don't fit inside of this box. Actually, they might fit. I just haven't had a chance to try to fit them in here yet. So when you pull off the lid, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, he got the Korbanth Crossguard V3 lightsaber. This is the version Kylo Ren lightsaber that he went with. So maybe they do fit in here, let me see. Actually, yes, Tristan, I think they will fit in here. So when you get your box, everything will be neatly packed inside of the box like you see here. So I'm going to go over everything with you, obviously starting with the side blades. Like we discussed, these are made of a clear TPU material. It's almost like a rubber plastic. They're very flexible, squishy, and durable. They are not susceptible to cracking and breaking. So these are really awesome. They're my design. They're like an unstable design made from icicle STL files. So you get your side blades here. Each of these has 14 pixels inside of them, but go ahead and leave your settings for your tridents set at 16 pixels because of your shtokcustomworx connectors, which we'll see later in the video have 16 pixels. So I'll set these aside. You also have in here my unstable main blade base sleeve. So this is also made of that squishy TPU material. As you can see, it's very flexible. It won't shatter or break. It is clear so that your lights can still shine through it. And then this goes on the base of your main blade to help match your side blades. It's kind of a base flare. So you can just slide it over your blade like that. And it will sit at the bottom. This is just a test blade I wanted to show you. And it won't fly off. It's pretty grippy. You don't have to worry about that. So you'll get that in there. Also, if you wanted to take your blade even further, I'm including a pointed, unstable tip. So normally, like this tip here, our lightsaber blades have the parabolic tip, right? So if you want to, if you have an extra blade laying around, you can take off this tip and you can put on this tip to kind of give it that pointy, unstable look. Now keep in mind, normally 1, sometimes 2 pixels will stick up inside of the parabolic tip to illuminate it. With this tip, you can stick about 3, maybe even 4 pixels up in here. So if you're gonna swap these out, you may need to trim your blade 1 inch, maybe 2 inches down to offset for that pixel count going up inside of the tip. But overall, it will still be a little bit longer. So this is also made of that squishy TPU material, so you don't have to worry about it cracking or breaking. So you get that. Now, you also get the little case that your speaker came in. You have the 28mm Smugglers Outpost dark side 3-watt 8-ohm speaker. I'll explain later why I went with the 8-ohm speaker, but I'm including the case because inside of it, I will include 1 extra blade retention screw and hilt button head screw for holding the hilt together. So these are pretty small screws. This is a unique type of button head screw that I'm using on your hilt, so it might be hard to find an extra, so I'm including an extra one in there in the case, in case you are to lose them for some reason. So that will be in the box. You also have your Ziploc baggie with 2 Allen wrenches. The smaller Allen wrench is for your blade retention screws, the same size for all 3 blades, and the larger one are for the 3 button head screws that are used to hold the hilt together. So that will be inside. And then over here on the left side of the box, we have your battery case. So with my Crossguard lightsabers, we got a lot of blades and a lot of effects going on. So I want to maximize potential for power given to the lightsaber. So I use the 21700 lithium ion battery, the 5000 milliamp hour. This is from the Custom Saber Shop. Great battery. I use these in all my Crossguards. And it even has the max 15 amp continuous discharge rating so that we get those nice, beautiful white effects. All of your battery positive and negatives, your NeoPixel positive and negatives are all 20 gauge wire, just so you know. I definitely install that so we get maximum power output to our blades. Also in here you have a brand new NiteCore portable USB charger. This is to charge your 21700 lithium ion battery. Make sure you just use these two. Don't try to use anything else. You want to run it by me first. If you do, that way we can make sure it's the right ratings and that you have the right charger. But these both work really well, so you get those. And now we're back to the hilt. So I'm going to pull the hilt out, and I'm going to repack the box while I have the hilt out. And we'll talk about modifications and things that I did to the hilt before we open it up and go look at the inside of the hilt. Super excited about this lightsaber. I did a whole lot of really cool stuff to it, so I'm super proud of it. If I was going to build myself one, this definitely would be it. Alright, so let's talk about the hilt, right? First and foremost, this is the Korbanth Crossguard version 3 lightsaber. It is held together by many small screws. So there's about 4 screws that hold the emitters to a middle core section, and then there's a few more screws inside of that core section that holds various other components on. And then there's 2 screws in the bottom of each of the emitters that hold the side emitters on. So since there's a lot of screws, and I have a lot of experience installing crossguards, I know that crossguard lightsabers, their users tend to be a little more like Kylo Ren, a little more amped up and play pretty hard with their lightsabers. So over time, all the bumping and clashing and swinging your lightsaber around, in the past, other lightsabers I've learned start to get loose. Those screws will rattle and then start to rattle their way out, and the lightsabers will become loose. So my solution is that I use Loctite Thread Locker Blue 242 removable version on all of the screws that are used to assemble the hilt. That way, this keeps the hilt together very solid and will prevent it from getting loose and rattling, so you won't have any wobbling. Because I use this, the lightsaber is very solid, and it's super you can be super confident and know that you can play with it pretty hard. I'm actually a big fan of this one. I think it is very simple the way that it comes apart and is put together, and yeah, it's a great lightsaber. So if you're looking for a Korbanth, or a Kylo Ren lightsaber, consider the Korbanth one. So yeah, you have the Loctite on all of your screws. The next thing to talk about are your side emitters. If you get a raw version of these like Tristan did, it's going to come in all black, very clean looking, but the side emitters will be a bare steel. They're actually made of steel. So I used a blowtorch and I heat stained them. Then I used my airbrush and I faded them black here towards the hilt. And then I used Spray Max 2K sealer, which also has a paint hardener in it to cover those emitters and keep that paint solid, secure, and prevent it from scratching. So it has a really cool textured feel to it. It has a good look to it. It fades to the black really well. And I maintain that very clean look throughout. So I'm pretty proud of how the emitters turned out. They're not super shiny because I used a clear satin color sealer because I didn't want the black itself to be shiny, because the hilt itself is also kind of a matte satin color. It's not very glossy at all, so I wanted the black to match that as well. So that kind of, the satin sealer also kind of toned down how shiny the emitters are. But you can still see the purplish blue here in the middle. So we got black fading out to that purplish blue, and then kind of that bronzy gold color on the tips. So it's still a very clean, very good looking lightsaber. Now, in addition to that, I also heat stained the emitters. So each of your emitters will have the blade plugs inside of them during shipping, Tristan, just for packaging efficiency. But I'm pulling them out here just to show you. So as you can see, these were also steel, but I heat stained them too so that they would match the emitters when they are inside. Okay. The main one has a lip on it. Okay, but it seats fully all the way. Okay, even with the PCB holder in there, the blade connector PCB holder, this one still sits pretty flush. However, the side ones stuck out a little bit, so I took a Dremel and a cutting wheel and I cut the lip off of these. So this one has the lip, but the sides I had to cut off so that whenever you put it in the emitter, it sits in there flush all the way. Otherwise, it stuck out about yay far. So I definitely cut those down. So that was a modification that I did. The blue wire on the very top, so this is a blue wire, two of them together. I used heat shrinks on the top and bottom, and then use E6000, which is kind of an industrial grade adhesive. It's kind of like a rubbery, has a rubber flexible feel once it's dry, but I use that to hold on the blue wire on the top. And then the red wire, as you can see here, is cut right here at the top clip. It's cut there because when you pull this handle off, the red wire needs to come off. So the top part is tucked inside of the gash right here, and then it's glued inside of this clip. And then whenever you're assembling and disassembling, you can just take the red wire and tuck it into that clip like so. Okay, and then it runs all the way down and just tucks into the bottom of the hilt down here. It comes out. It's actually, you know, loose, and you can take it all the way out if you want to. It's pretty easy to put back in. All of the silver clips are glued in also using the E6000. So that's in place. So I like to run it up in there, and then you can see a little black, there's a little black wheel down here with holes in it for sound venting, and you just take the red wire and tuck it down inside of those holes like so. Let's see, what other modifications did I do to the hilt? I guess that's all the ones we'll talk about right now. I'll move on now. So we have, it's a 2-button setup. Here are the buttons where the clear greeblies are. The upper button is your power, the lower button is your auxiliary. There's 2 little tactile switches that sit underneath that, so the clicking feedback is really great actually. So I really like that about this crossguard. Let's see, the pommel, right? So I'll show you the pommel on this lightsaber actually does come off. If you get yourself a pickle jar opener, you can grab the pommel and you can unscrew it if you take the red wire out, of course. Now, the SP Sabers Darkness V3 and the KR Crossguard from KR Sabers, their pommels did not come off. They were pretty much fixed. This pommel, I mean, it could stay fixed, but I'm just showing you that it is threaded and that it does come off. We've got a little black wheel here with holes in it for sound venting. If you want to increase sound and make it even louder, you can actually screw this off and remove it. This also helps, Tristan, for you, we'll go over it later, but your chassis, has a pixel ring down on the bottom, and if you want those to shine through the bottom even more, I also suggest removing this ring. But me personally, I like it a little subtle. I don't want it to be too bright down there, so we're gonna leave the black ring on for the demonstration purposes for this video. I recommend the pickle jar opener because it's a good way to grip the pommel and screw it on without using any metal tools. You don't want to scratch or dent it anywhere. You want to keep it really nice, but it is hard to grip because of the type of pommel that it is. So we're gonna go ahead and get that all in there. Let me tuck this back in. Sometimes you may need to use like a little pair of tweezers. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just easier with your hand to tuck it in one of those little holes. All right, so now we'll get down to the meat and potatoes of the overview video, and we will open this thing up and look at the inside. First step, like I showed you earlier, you're just gonna pull the red wire out because we're gonna remove the handle. Next, you're gonna need your Allen wrench or some type of tool to remove these 3 button head screws all the way and take them all the way out. Something I want to point out too, this button right here is also a screw, and it is used to hold on this upper shell, this shroud right here. Do not remove that. I would recommend leave that on. Only an installer or somebody doing maintenance would remove that so they could get to the wire bay or the wire hole underneath here. So another cool part about this lightsaber, I'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit. A lot of lightsabers, normally you work your wires and your installation from the emitters down to the chassis. But with this one, I kind of did the emitters to about the middle here, and then I did my wires up from the chassis up to about here. Because underneath or behind this shroud is actually a giant window where you can bring the wires through and connect them all. So I thought that was a really neat concept with the construction of this lightsaber. It makes it easier for an installer like me to do maintenance and things if I need to without messing with the chassis. So we're going to continue on. We're going to remove all 3 of these button head screws, which I actually changed out from the original ones, which were way too long and they were sticking out because they were screwing into the chassis. So I had a whole lot of these shorter ones from, in the past I used to do conversions on the Disney and Galaxy's Edge Kylo Ren lightsabers, and I had a ton of these in my extra drawer, and I used these, and these are about the perfect length and they are the same size as the originals, so I swapped those out. Alright, so once you pull those 3 out, you can take the handle and gently just slide it down off of your chassis. Now your handle section is just a handle. It is a hollow shell. It has no actual functionality or anything like that, so you can just set that aside. Now we're going to look at the chassis of the lightsaber. I want to point out, this is kind of my warning to everyone when I make these videos, whenever you're handling the lightsaber while it is disassembled, you want to make sure you're always handling the metal portion of the lightsaber and then treating the chassis like it's delicate, because it is. It's susceptible to breaking and cracking and getting damaged if you're handling it improperly. So you never want to handle the lightsaber while it's disassembled by the chassis. There's a small section that goes up into the center core of this lightsaber, and that is a weak point where it could snap and break off. So that's why it's important to handle it by the metal up here. So we'll move on now and look at the chassis. First thing that we notice right off the top is we have crystalfocus.net's logo embedded into the wire cover. Okay, so we have a wire cover here that we can just lift up and remove out of the chassis, and it does just that. It covers up the wires. We've got a lot going on in this chassis, lots of wires, so we got to cover that ugliness up with something so we can't see it. Also underneath there is the FSC BT909 Bluetooth chip, and it's actually sitting on the shtokcustomworx breakout board. So it has built-in LEDs on it to indicate its connection status and that it's powered on and connected. Also up here we have a Crystal Focus X. This is the version 4, it's the newest version. I don't think that there's anything special about it, but we have 4 red onboard LEDs up here at the top. And then this spot right here is the 10K resistor on a little pad thing for blade detection. So I'm going to demo the blade detection soon, and then you'll see these LEDs all light up. If you want to access your SD card, if you're really careful, you can get it out with some tweezers. Please excuse my washing machine. I'm down here in my basement, and as you can hear, it's really loud right now. I'm gonna kind of pause for a second, and I'll come back once it's done being. All right, we're back at it. I think the washing machine's done with its spin cycle. So on top of the Crystal Focus X here, on all of the solder joints that are a bit more exposed than other, especially that 10K resistor for blade detection, I use what's called liquid tape. It's like a liquid electrical tape, and I coat over those as just an added layer of protection to prevent those from touching the inside of your metal handle. Back to the SD card. The SD card could be removed if you were really careful, but I do not recommend lifting the CFX board up out of the chassis. It kind of needs to stay down. So my personal recommendation, just to take care of the lightsaber, I would recommend accessing the SD card via the USB port. That way you don't need to, lift the CFX board, because I don't think you could get it out without lifting that CFX, which I know is a bit of an inconvenience, but there are just a lot of wires and a lot of things going on down inside of there. So I don't know if it comes out. It comes out part of the way. Let's see here if I can get it with a pair of tweezers. Yeah, I wouldn't try it because I don't want you to damage any of those wires. So Tristan, I recommend when you're accessing the SD card, just hook up via your USB port, okay? Now, once you're done plugging into your USB port and looking at your lights and showing it off and things like that, to put the wire cover back in, it just presses down inside of this gap here. So I'm gonna push it all the way down to the bottom, and then I'm just gonna press it on the sides until it fits snug down inside of the chassis. So let's go have a look at the chassis now. This is a resin printed chassis designed by me and then painted with acrylic paint. We painted it kind of a gold color. I painted it kind of a gold color to try to match the tips of the emitters. It's a bit shinier, but it still looks really great. And then a lot of these greeblies and pipes and accessories over here on the side, I hit them up with some silver colored paint. Just a little bit though, so it still looks kind of dirty in here since it is a Kylo Ren lightsaber. And then a lot of the pipes I hit with some copper paint. So we got some copper piping going on. Embedded in the chassis, we also have a blue and a yellow LED on this side, and we have a red and green LED on this side. So we have a total of 8 accent LEDs, 4 red ones up here on top, 2 over here, and 2 over here. Then if we roll it all the way over, we have our battery compartment. This is where we put in the 21700 lithium ion battery. The spring side is your negative. So I repeat that, make sure you do not put your battery in backwards. Spring side is negative. And then as we flip it up and we look at the very bottom of the lightsaber, we see here we have a pixel ring. So we have 8 neopixels on a ring that sits over this top of the speaker. So this is actually on the second data line, and then it's wired in series with the side blades and those stock connectors. So it's 8 and then 16. Inside of there we have the black Elite speaker from Smugglers Outpost. It's the 28mm 3-watt 8 ohm speaker. Now I used to use 4 ohm speakers because they are super loud and they do sound pretty good, but they do have a little bit of distortion and clipping and things like that. So in addition to that, I started to get pretty annoyed when I had a lot of customers, it seemed like a whole lot at once, were sending their sabers back to me to replace their 4 ohm speakers because they kept blowing. So the 4 ohm speakers, in my experience, seem to blow a bit more. And what's not so good about that is the speakers are pretty much glued inside of the chassis. So to get them out, I would have to essentially break the chassis to get it out, which means I would have to put in a new chassis, which basically means I'd have to completely reinstall the saber. So I got really tired of doing that and switched over to the 8 ohm speaker, which is not as loud, but it's still very clear, still very good sounding speaker, high quality, and I have not had a single 8 ohm speaker blow yet, and they still sound almost as good. Maybe not as loud, but they're still very high quality speakers. So we got that one in there. And then in each of the emitters, I've mentioned it already, but inside of each of the emitters, we have the stock version 3 NPXL connectors, each of them with 16 LEDs inside to illuminate the emitters whenever the blades are removed. And you have shine through blade plugs, so it looks really great when we see those LEDs shining through the blade plugs. So I'll go ahead and put in the battery now, and we'll do some demonstrations, and I'll kind of show you this thing lit up. So whenever you put the battery in, you're gonna hold the hilt by the metal part. You're not gonna press really hard into the chassis. We don't wanna break it off that way. You're just gonna press downward against the spring, right? So make sure you look at the label. We got the negative side there. You're gonna press down against that spring and push the positive end in. Obviously, a boot sound will play, indicating that the lightsaber now has power, and then you'll see a lot of your accent LEDs and even your pixel ring lighting up and doing effects. Now, it's really easy to get the battery in, but it's a little bit harder to get it out just because of this metal lip right here sticks out so far. It's hard to get your finger in there on the positive end to get it out. So the easiest way to get this out, Tristan, is again holding the lightsaber by the metal portion, and then this metal lip that sticks out, you're just gonna bump against your palm, okay? And as you do that, it's gonna knock this battery out. So you just face it downwards and you bump it like that on the metal portion, and as you can see, the battery comes out. The battery comes out really easy, but you don't have to worry about it doing that while it's assembled because the handle will hold the battery in. But when it's disassembled and you want to get that battery out, you just bump it against your palm, and as you can see, the battery will pop out very easily. So all of the accent LEDs and the pixels have effects that they do in the idle sequence. So while the blade is not ignited is what we call idle. We got some blinking here of the red and green LED. Same thing on the other side with the blue and yellow. I just mixed up the colors to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And then we have the red LEDs up here doing a little effect there. And then on the bottom we have those pixels spinning, okay? Also, I'll lift it up again just so you can see. Once we lift up that cover, we can see here that the Bluetooth chip is blinking blue. That means that you're not connected, but it is on. So to connect, I'm actually gonna demo all this. We're gonna open my phone here. Let me go to my utilities, and I'm gonna use the Crystal FX app, okay? So I'm gonna scan for lightsabers, and then I'm gonna look for the FSC BT909LE. I'm gonna select that, and then I'm going to connect under the device options. Then once I'm connected, we get a solid blue light, right, indicating that we're connected, and also a green light, okay? So we got solid blue and green there, indicating that we are now connected to our lightsaber via the phone. So up at the top there, we got battery level, 94%. We got blade style library. Kyber Connect is a cool feature where you can share blade styles with a friend who also has a Bluetooth chip and the same app on his phone or hers. You have a remote control. You can power on, change fonts, change blade styles, change colors. You can do all of your functions like clashing and stabbing and spinning, lockup. You can even force it into sleep mode, or you can even reboot it here if you want. So I'm just gonna kind of do some demonstrations here just to kind of show you. Now that we've powered it on, we can see that we have different effects on our LEDs here. On the onboard LEDs, we got some quicker and different blinking on the LEDs on the sides. Okay. And then we have some faster spinning of those LEDs on the ring on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in. So super beautiful chassis with all of these blinkies and LED lights in it, really bringing the lightsaber to life. We can power it back off. We can change fonts.
I'll show you the dark side.
right? We can clash. I can swing. I can lock up. Right, I can do blasters. I can do force effects. And I can power it down. And then I can reboot it if I want to, like we talked about earlier. So I'll go back. There's lots of other things that you can do on here. You can look at all of your sound fonts. So I'm going to go over those with you, Tristan. You have the Kylo Ren sound fonts from both K-Sith and from Kyberphonic. We got multiple versions here, 9 in total. Some of them are from The Force Awakens with different versions of staggered ignitions. That's what the SI stands for. Some of them from The Last Jedi, some from TROS, and then we have the Unstables version 1 and 2, which is The Force Awakens and TROS from Kyberphonic. So we can actually select those and go to them. We can do volume. We can adjust our volume in here if we want to. We can save that. We can go into our blade profiles and change flickers and pulses and different types of mappings and things like that. And then you can save when you're done. We can even do the same stuff with our main configuration, our blade motion and interaction settings. We can go to colors. We can go to font configuration. We can even go to our background tracks. We can even do firmware updates. All kinds of cool things you can do here in this app. But I'm going to go ahead and disconnect for now, and then we're going to move on now a little bit. So let me close this, move it aside. So I'm actually going to reassemble the hilt now so that we can get the blades in and do a demonstration. I'll swing this thing around and kind of show you what it's like. But before I do that, I do want to show you the blade detection feature that I talked about earlier. I'm going to use my test blade here and just kind of show you. Blade detection is whenever we insert and remove a blade, our CFX board will detect that and then play an audible sound. So we have beeping there when we're inserted, and we have a fizzled out sound when we remove the blade. It's a pretty cool feature. It is only on the main blade, not the side blades, and you can even change the sound files to make it sound however you want whenever you're removing and inserting blades. So moving on to reassembly of the hilt, again, you're going to handle this metal portion. We're going to take our handle and we're going to gently slide it up and over the chassis. You'll notice there is a gap right here. You're going to line that gap up with where the switches are, and then you'll know that's right because you can see the holes here right next to it are lined up as well. Then I'm just going to use my hands and slowly start to thread in the 3 screws, or you can use your Allen wrench to do that too. Don't tighten them all the way yet. You just want to get the threading started, and then you can tighten them all 3 once you get the threading going on all 3. Make sure you do not over tighten the screws at this point as you're buttoning up the hilt, because you don't want to strip the holes out. But once you do get all 3 in there, it's pretty tight. I can hear the washer going through another spin cycle again, so I'm gonna pause right now and we'll come back once that's finished for the blade demonstration. Alright, so washer machine's done, dryer's going in the background. Not as loud though, so we can keep going. Moving on to blade demonstration, but before I do, I did want to show you guys where the bottom, where you can see the lower engine shining through. You can see it if I face it downwards like that. Pretty cool looking. Also, CFX has motion controls, so we can twist on and we can twist off. Alright, blades. So we'll start with the side blades. I like to put those in first, and then I'll move the camera and we'll do the main blade, and I'll swing it around, show you what that looks like. So you're going to need your smaller Allen wrench. Make sure when you put your blades in, there's no twisting. We don't want to bend the pins. We just want to push against the pins, which are spring loaded. So we're just pushing against them, applying pressure and holding them in place as we tighten down the set screws against the blade, just enough to keep it from coming back out. We don't want to puncture the blade or anything like that. Whoop. So here is our side blades. Alright, so I'm going to move the camera now. I'm going to put in a bigger main blade and then I'll slide on the sleeve. And then, yeah, here we go. Alright, so recording now. Got the main blade on. Here's the sleeve. You just slide it onto your main blade. All the way down. And then you're ready to rock. Here's a font with staggered ignition. So, there's the demonstration. Thank you, Tristan, for choosing me to do your installation on your crossguard. I am very honored. I am going to now put together this video and upload it, send it to you, and then I'm gonna let you watch it and kind of review everything. If everything looks good and you give me the thumbs up, then I will begin packaging stuff and we can talk about, you know, all of that and get it mailed out to you ASAP. So, thank you for watching if you watched this whole video, and may the force be with you.